All right, we are live. Happy Thursday. Welcome to another Lunch and Learn with Purse Strings. My name is Maggie Nielsen. I'm a partner here at Purse Strings, and we do these lives every week to share real life success stories, get some great information, knowledge, skill out there. But when you're ready to talk to a professional, we have our top tier financial professionals willing, ready, and able to serve you. These are professionals who really focus on serving a female market, and we call these our Purse Strings approved professionals. Amanda is one of them, and we're so excited for her to kind of come on today and share her expertise of how she helped a client pay down debt faster, understand their life insurance and different annuities, and really get their financial health on track. So before we dive into this conversation, Amanda, could you give us a little intro of who you are and what you do?
Sure. Nice to meet everybody. My name is Amanda Knieriemen, as you can see. Although my married last name is Gregory, it's a lot easier. I do have to change that eventually. This is my nightmare. But I've been in the financial industry 7 years. I did get my degree. I graduated back in May of 2009. So as you can imagine, there was not a bazillion jobs available right after the market crash in 2008. So I was doing a lot of other things before actually getting into the industry 7 years ago. So I'm 36. So I graduated, carry the 15 years ago from college. So just about, so pretty wild ride to get here. But I ended up here because what I ultimately discovered is that my parents, my family, like obviously you can, experience it firsthand. They lost their home in 2008. I
Wow.
should say, because I was still living in it. We didn't have to move out till 2011, but my dad didn't understand anything about his mortgage. He never saved any money. He never had a retirement plan. It was always that mentality of, I'll take care of it later. I can't afford it right now. I don't understand it. I'm overwhelmed. So he just never did anything.
Yeah.
To this, I mean, if I wasn't in this industry to this day, it'd probably be the same thing, because I was able to eventually earn enough credibility with them as a professional to influence some decisions. But and I saw it firsthand. So I thought, if my family, my dad worked his butt off, worked for the same company for 43 years at this point, which is
Wow.
almost unheard of. It was a small business, now it's corporate. Um, but he never got ahead, really. It was
Mhm.
always like paycheck to pay for decades.
Yeah.
And now, honestly, he's asking me all the time, like, are you like making $1 million? Like, when can I retire now? Or is it another year? Like, what are you thinking? So I understood the need for this kind of thing. And the more I learned about the industry in and of itself and their sales methods and their compensation plans, the more I understood that a new approach to the oldest industry and most lucrative industry in the world needed to come about. And that's ultimately what I ended up finding with the broker dealer and the company that I'm with now. So very lucky, and very excited. And this case that we're going to go over is just a testament to the stuff that I see every day.
Awesome.
Every day.
Yeah, I'm so excited to dive in. And it's so many people do come from those real life stories. And it's, we tell people as much as painful as it is, please do not leave your head in the sand, as otherwise it will stay there a
Yeah.
long time. And so I love how you had to even convince your parents, even after you had, this expertise, to be like, no, please trust me, like I get it's finances, but leaving your head in the sand is not going to help you. So we're going to dive into the story about how you're able to help this couple, Laura and Bob. And so anyone tuning in live, if you have questions along the way, you can throw them in the chat. If you're watching the replay, throw them in the chat. We'll work on getting back to those. But what was kind of like the reason or that final push that Laura and Bob really called you up? What were some of their concerns that they wanted help with?
Sure. Excuse me. So Bob and Laura were referred to us actually by a couple agents of mine, a couple that I was working with at the time. This was just literally right before COVID. Um, they were on a trip in Mexico, and they were just mentioning to this other couple, like, just like kind of how they felt about their situation, like just unsure, like very
Mhm.
unsure. Like they knew they were saving money, or they had money saved. They were doing some of the right things based on the research that they had done, but they were still unsure. Like, is it the best thing? I don't know, but I know that I'm doing something, which is better than nothing, which fair
Right.
enough. Right. So any steps forward is good. Obviously there's good, better, best, but, and this other couple was like, you just need to sit down with Amanda. She'll give you a full review, and you guys can ultimately decide what you want to do.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what happened. They were like, you know what? It's free. Shouldn't charge anything. Why don't we do that? And this was pre Zoom era. as many people that are tuning in live will, I mean, we never used it. We were very brick and mortar. My company, I was at the people's kitchen tables. They were in my office. This was not very common. I had to quite literally reinvent my business model to help this couple because they're in North Carolina. I'm in New York.
Okay.
It was a very different thing. I had never done it before. But we figured it out, a way to, I think we used Skype at the time, which makes me sound like a
I
dinosaur.
love that.
Or it could have been GoToMeeting. It was not Zoom. It was something else. But we ended up doing that. So they were like, you know what? Number one, it's free. So people like free things, right? Number two, they were like, what worst case scenario? We don't know this person. Like, if we don't like her, we could just press the X button and call it a day.
Meeting ended.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, oh, the Wi-Fi must be out. But that is not what happened. So we ended up I was on the phone with her today for 46 minutes before we got on here. So, so that's how they got referred to me. Very basic, nothing crazy.
Yeah. And definitely it usually is just that feeling of like, am I doing enough? Is this enough? Because planning for retirement and those long-term plans is just so far out. And so I know one of the first things you did is help them pay down some debt much quicker, right? So how'd you kind of go about this and why'd you start there?
So when I met with them, we kind of went over a lot of different things that they were not feeling so great about. At the time, they were very much paycheck to paycheck-ish. They knew they should have extra money, but they didn't really know like where it was going. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way, especially if you have children. So we did their budget. We were like, all right, Laura came to me actually with a full budget prepared because she loves Excel spreadsheets. And I love her for that because I don't love them. So find friends that are good at the things you're not good at and keep them around. So she came to me with her full budget and we were able to kind of take a look at it and say like, okay, so it's saying you should have X amount left over every month. Where's it going? What we ultimately discovered was the way they were paying their debt down wasn't necessarily serving them. It was I'm going to hit every card with whatever extra I have at the end of the month. So, they had, I think, 7 credit cards. They wanted to hit them all with whatever money they had. Excuse me. So we ended up restructuring that just based on the interest rates that they had with varying interest rates. We did what it's called the debt avalanche, but most people heard the debt snowball. I use a website. I'm not affiliated with them. This is a shameless plug. It's a free website. So, I mean, do your own thing, but Undebt is a website that I use for a majority of my debt clients. 1, because it's free. And 2, because it's the simplest thing for anyone to be able to take care of and start to manage on their own. And I sign them up, I give them a password, and they have full access to their own stuff. Prior to finding that, I was doing it quite literally by hand, and my clients would have the schedule on their fridge. That has happened before. So I set them up and they were like, okay, if we do it this way versus the way we were doing it, it's going to save us about 12 months of payments.
Wow.
We're going to get out of debt either way, but save us a year. Now that's an extra year of saving the money we were putting towards our debt, which if I'm not mistaken at the time was like $750 a month.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. They were in their early 50s at the time. Obviously worried about being able to retire at some point, which many people are. Even people in their 30s are worried about it at this point. Excuse me. So that was right away. I was like, all right, if we're going to do the budget, we're going to start here so we can figure out and plan really like, okay, so right now we might be tight, but down the road, we're going to have this money. So let's figure out what's going on here first. Step 1. I do have like a basic financial foundation that I use too. I have a picture. It looks like a wedding cake. A budget, proper protection, which typically we will deal with life insurance first because it's just very necessary in a financial plan. I knew they had something because we went through their budget. So I was like, you know what? At least you're covered for something right now. Let's deal with the debt next is usually then emergency funds and retirement. All of them have equal importance, but that's typically the order that I will go in a review, at least.
I always like to just highlight here about how professionals just pay for themselves in like a matter of minutes, hours. I don't know. I mean, to save someone a year of debt pay down is already unreal. And so just to sit down and do that, that hour you put aside saved you 12 months. And if that's $750 a month, I mean, that's over $7,000. That's unreal. And so totally amazing, getting your financial health on track right there. And so once they, you made this debt plan, I know they're working through it. You did look at their life insurance policy. And so they had some stuff in place, but I think you guys changed that. So can you kind of show me, what you looked at and why you might go one way or another?
So I'll start by saying, because if there are people listening from the industry, there's the financial industry is very broad. A lot of people have a lot of beliefs, and my
Yep.
belief about the industry is that we are not Santa or the Tooth Fairy. We don't go by beliefs; we go by hard fact. And so, because I'm an independent agent, I have no quotas. I work with 200 companies. I have access to everything.
Mm.
So I took a look at what they had, and there have been plenty of situations where I'm like, you know what? You've had this for a certain amount of time. You're this age. You have this health issue. We're just going to keep it where it
Mm.
doesn't make sense financially for us to change it. In this case, they had some term life insurance that was a 10-year term. I forget what they were paying. I have the spreadsheet somewhere. And they had some whole life insurance, which, from a company, though, that's their shtick. I pretty much knew exactly what they were going to have when they told me who they were using. But again, everyone will always ask what's the best kind of life insurance. The best kind is what's going to pay your family tax-free cash when you pass away. Whatever's in place the day you die, and as long as it's done, as long as it pays your family, then you're good. Are there better things on the market than maybe that stuff? Sure. Is it going to be appropriate for my client? I never know in the initial conversation. I have to do more of a deep dive. So we took a look at their term, what they were paying for it, and that was just a basic numbers comparison. I mean,
Yeah.
that's for term insurance. There's really not much else to do other than figure out if there's any bells and whistles, which we did find some for them. We did ultimately move them from a regular basic term policy to a term with living benefits. So I've come across a lot of life insurance agents who don't even know what that is.
Yeah. So can you explain to our audience what like a term with living benefits might be?
Sure. So I won't get too deep into the inner workings of each thing, but so a bunch of companies now are doing temporary insurance with living benefits, meaning you can actually utilize the insurance while you're still alive. The number one excuse people get for not buying life insurance is, I mean, I'm on Long Island, guys, so this is what I'm usually getting. Why? So my wife could go marry somebody else and get all the money? I don't think so, right? Why? So I can kick the bucket and they can get the stuff? No, that's not always the reason. So now you get this temporary insurance with living benefits. There's 3 different riders you could get, and there could even potentially be more at some other companies that I don't know about. I'm not the all-powerful Oz. I'm learning every day as the industry changes. But there's chronic illness, critical illness, and terminal illness. So there's different qualifications for each thing. The critical is typically a shorter term issue. Chronic is a longer term issue. And terminal is exactly what you think it is. It's a terminal issue. It's a terminal health issue. So if you qualify for one of those things, let's say you have $500,000 death benefit on your life insurance, you actually can use that life insurance death benefit to pay medical bills or whatever falls under the proper category.
Yeah.
For a qualification, which is great. And we'll talk about that at the end with this case too, because that applies big time in this moment. And so what we ended up ultimately finding out was they had this life insurance for, I think, 3 years when I met them, or 2 years when I met them, or on their 3rd year. We ended up saving them. In total, we saved them $150 a month in life insurance after replacing everything. But on the term very specifically, I think it was $40 a month between the two, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is.
It adds up.
To switch to a 20-year term, which means they have the policy for a decade longer, right? They were in their early 50s, so now they're covered into their early 70s with living benefits. So they got a longer policy for more money, by the way. So we have them an extra $100,000 each, and with living benefits for $20 less each, give or take. I think Laura was $30 less, and Bob might have been $10 less, but you get the point.
Yeah.
So it was just an upgrade. It was for the car people out there, it's you've been driving the 1999 Toyota Camry for forever, and now you go out and you buy the car you really want. The Ford Maverick pickup 2023, souped up, whatever it is. So that kind of idea.
That's awesome. Yeah, that they were able to then have that coverage, get those riders, and save some money because who doesn't love good money savings?
Yeah. And then on the permanent insurance side for the whole life, so the reason why they got the whole life was because they wanted permanent insurance. A lot of people purchase whole life because they want the cash value, right? And I have things about that I don't necessarily like, but if you make money, you can get the money out, so be it, take it, right? There are worse things out there. So But they were like, we just want a permanent insurance. This is what the guy at this company told us to get. And I'm like, kind of a bummer, because there are better things out there. And I know the company, so I know they could have given you something better, but I know they have a quota on this thing. So I'm like, okay, let's just walk through the inner workings of this so I can highlight some stuff. And the most important part about this, I think, is that as I'm doing this, I'm not just looking at it on my own and telling them things. I'm
Right.
walking them through, like, tell me what you understand about how this works. Tell me what you understand about how this works, so that they're like, I actually don't get that. What is that fee for? Why would I
Hmm.
pay so much for that? That's not even why I got this. So like, then they're like, okay, well, now I'm very open to looking at other things on the market, because I'm allowing them to learn at their own pace.
Right.
I don't do business on the first appointment ever, ever. I've never done it in 7 years, and I would never do it, because number one, I don't know everything that exists on the market. Like I said, number two, a lot of times I'm just meeting somebody for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, we have to become friends. I built my entire business off of referrals and relationships. So
Hmm.
I don't have a quota. I'm not in a rush. I'd rather take 3 appointments to make a friend who's going to give me 10 referrals a month
Right.
than rush to make a sale and then never get anything. And then all the value I can provide stops dead. So they were able to kind of see, like, okay, I thought this was how this worked, but that's not how this works. Unfortunately not. Okay, well, do you have something that works like this? Yes. So what we ultimately ended up doing was switching that to a universal life policy, which just has some more flexibility than whole life has. It doesn't accumulate the cash value, but that wasn't their concern to begin with. It does, and it does, and it doesn't. Again, very convoluted. We'll get into that if somebody wants to, but that's not the purpose of this. The purpose is permanent life insurance. And what we also did here was we attached a long-term care rider to that.
Ooh.
So, and both of them, Bob and Laura, both had parents in nursing homes that had spent, I mean, I think Bob's dad spent over $1 million in long-term care.
So they need that
And
long-term
so
care rider.
as soon as they learned about it, they were like, yep. Laura knew about it, excuse me, because she had something called standalone long-term care with the
Mm.
other company. Do I know whether the other guy could have given her a similar situation with a rider like this? I don't know. I hope not, because sometimes people will just sell a lot of things to make numbers and stuff like that. I saw a case like that this morning. It was egregious. But she had a standalone long-term care, which is, again, totally fine. The challenge is, if you don't ever use it, you just spent all that money and it just goes away.
Got it.
So it's a catch 22, because, like, do you really want to use your long-term care coverage? Like, no, I never
Right.
want to actually need to use that. But I also paid blank amount of money into this. Like, I better at some point use this, or I just wasted
Yeah.
thousands of dollars. And then on top of that, historically, standalone long-term care, the prices have varied. It's been a little bit wild. So having these riders attached to permanent insurance, it takes away the risk of not ever of the use it or lose it,
Hmm.
because now she's got 350,000. She only had $100,000 whole life. She has a
Hmm.
$350,000 universal life with a long-term care rider. If she uses it, great. She uses it. She paid for it, so be it.
Yeah.
If she doesn't, her kids or her husband still get 350 grand of tax-free money.
Perfect.
And
So
it was still less expensive than the whole life.
and so there's some points that I really want to highlight here. And first of
Sure.
them is that the original person she went with kind of had a quota that he was trying to hit, and that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why she got sold that
Not a bad
product.
guy. Not a bad guy, to
Yeah.
be fair. It's the company he works for, their comp plan and that stuff.
But sometimes, you might want to ask your professional, who can you work with? Do you have a quota? And that's not rude or invasive. That's just doing your research. So I'd like to, just reiterate to women that you can ask that, and that's not like
Mhm.
a bad thing. It's no, just I'm want to know because you have access to 200 people, but if you only have access to two, I know that you're just kind of putting me in a box. And so these are
Yeah.
just really important things to understand.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. And I will say, I do, what I did do with Laura was, before we did anything, I said, look, you've been with this guy for X amount of
mhm.
time. I'm sure they live in the Outer Banks, North Carolina. It's a very close-knit community.
Yep.
A lot of people use this guy. And so I'm like, look, I understand. Like, I get that there's a level of loyalty there. Like, I
Yep.
totally get it. Plus, the small knit community is just an extra layer of that. I totally get it. I'm like, here's what you're going to do. Here are the questions you're going to ask him. And I said, I want you to pay attention to how he answers them.
Mm.
Not what he says, but how he says it. Because what you're going to find is that he's going to be pretty angry when you start asking these questions. And then he's going to ask you one thing: who have you been talking to? So she went and did the exact same, because she's coachable. She went and did the exact same thing I told her to do. And she called me. She's like, you will not believe what just happened. I'm like, of course I'm going to believe. I've been on mute on the
Yeah.
phone with other clients when they've tried to talk ill about me as an advisor without even knowing me. So I'm like, I know how it works. I totally get it. And she's like, you were exactly right. He got very defensive. And I, again, not a bad guy. He's put in this situation just based on the sales methods and the comp model from the company he works for.
And that's why, yeah, purse strings, we encourage these questions. And if someone does, to me, like if someone starts getting angry and who are you talking to, my red flags are just going off everywhere. It's like, oh, this is not going to be where I hang out. But, it's a good way to also just kind of learn and just be like, ooh, Amanda's not just like doing the same thing, turning back to business.
Mm-hmm.
So you went through their debt, you went through their life insurance, you really adjusted a lot of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of the last thing I know, or second to last, was the investments.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So they had,
what'd you look at there?
Mm-hmm. So they had a little bit of everything. They had some annuities with this guy. They had some brokerage accounts with this guy. And they had some like a CD or something somewhere. But what we ended up ultimately doing, and just a little bit more background on this couple, they were newly married, second marriage for Laura.
Okay.
She has 2 kids. So they're in their early 50s, but they were just kind of over the past couple of years, like just starting to combine finances, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Laura's very organized. Her husband was like, you take care of it all, right? And I'm just gonna hang out back here. So he was some of the most fun to watch too, because he was like, he didn't know anything. So it was fun to like, he's like asking all these questions and like Laura's like watching, it was just fun to get him involved in the conversation and a part of it. Cause that's, again, it's so important for spouses to communicate about this stuff, because knock on wood, something happens. If you don't know who to call or how it works. I've had a woman in my office where we've had to call, like, we called 10 life insurance companies because all she could find was certain little pieces of paper. Her husband passed away at 57 years old. We only had like one of those carbon copies from Prudential from when he got his medical. And we had like some weird things. We ultimately found out that all of his insurance was lapsed and he had nothing. It was not great at all. It was absolutely terrible. I hated every second of that. But it's so important for you to stay on top of it. And it's not that much, but when you get a piece of mail, I don't even require that you open it. Just put it into a lockbox somewhere so that when the time comes, you have access to something.
Right.
Getting into the emails, getting into the bank accounts, if it's not set up properly, you're going to have a hard time doing it.
Yep.
But it's so important that both of you have the vaguest idea of what's going on. You don't need to know everything, but you need to know the vaguest thing so that
right.
So with this stuff, what we ended up looking at, they had a bunch of variable annuities with this guy, which I'm a huge variable annuity fan if done properly. This was unfortunately not. They were very expensive. And here's the thing about fees and stuff like that this is my belief, at least. A fee is okay. It's okay to pay for something as long as you're getting something for it. You don't walk into the grocery store, put 20 on the register and walk out with no groceries. That's crazy. Yet inside of most investments, that's exactly what people are doing. They're paying fees of questionable value inside of their variable annuities. I saw one today inside of a fixed index annuity that I was, hand to God, sweating, looking at this. It was, I can't even go even down that road. It was really bad. Inside of their mutual funds, their 401ks and all this stuff, there's fees everywhere. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. It's like the first thing you learn in economics 101.
Yep.
But it's okay to pay a fee as long as you know what you're getting for it. And that was my question to them. I was like, all right, cool. So if this is how this works, like what made you choose this particular product over the other ones this advisor showed you? He didn't show me anything else. Okay. I expected that answer, but I wanted them to say it. And then, okay, so I'm seeing here that you're paying 3% or 1.5% or whatever it is. Like, what do you like? Do you remember why? Like, what's this fee even for? Do you know? Like, what do you understand about that? And they were like, I didn't even know that we were paying that. Like, I don't know. What I ultimately found that it was really for nothing. It says it's for something, obviously. They're not just charging it, but the thing that it was for is not serving the client.
Yep.
So I can only imagine, I don't know how their comp model works on that kind of stuff, but I can only imagine that the more ticky tacky things you put on, the higher the commission you're going to get. That's what I came down to. So what I did was we took a look at a bunch of different options. I asked them what their number one concern was with this money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything aside, what's the number one concern? And they were like, well, we want to make sure it'll last us until we die. Like,
Yeah.
it has to. Like, neither one of them have a pension, and we're worried that it's not going to be here because we're losing money all the time. So I was like, all right, so you want it to last you forever. You don't want to lose any money. Okay. Without getting too far into the weeds on annuity stuff. The issue with all annuities can turn into a lifetime income stream, something called annuitization. There's reasons why you're going to hear people say annuities are bad. Don't do it. They're terrible. That is such a blanket statement. That is not the case at all. That's like saying, kids are bad. A lot of kids are bad for like a millisecond. Right? I have a 2-year-old. She's crazy. Right? Everything in my head is crayon on it right now. But we love her. She's not bad. She's had a bad moment. These are the same situation. Like, if the advisor doesn't understand how these things actually work, or they understand exactly how they work and they just choose not to use them to the best interest of the client, then you find yourself in situations like this where people are angry. And instead of taking a look at it from that point of view, they look at it as it's the product. The product is not alive. So it can't do anything on its own. It is the driver. Like, car accidents, unless it's a self-driving Tesla, car accidents are not caused by the vehicle. They're caused by the driver most of the time, right? Unless there's like technical malfunction. That's not happening here. So we create it, we design it, we know how to do it. If it ends up kind of screwing somebody over, that's the advisor's issue.
Yeah.
It's not a product problem. So historically, annuities have gotten a pretty bad rap because when you annuitize something, I don't know why I did air quotes. That's not fake. It's real. Annuitizing is a real thing. You give up control of your lump sum of money to the company, which people don't like it because then a lot of times, if not done properly, if let's say it was me, I gave up control of my money to a company and I passed away 3 months later, keeps my money. My husband gets nothing. That sounds like a terrible idea for anybody except for the insurance company. And that's historically how they operated.
Yep.
I don't blame people for thinking that. Things have changed. Times have changed. And so looking at this, they had these variable annuities with no income riders on them. I'm a big fan of, if people are listening to this, I'm a big fan of guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefits, GLWB. Those riders that are put onto these annuities will allow you to still set up a lifetime income stream when you want, but still keep control of your actual principal amount.
Wow.
So you're getting the best of both worlds. Of course, you are going to pay for that.
Yep.
Here's the craziest part. So what we ended up deciding was, instead of variable annuities, they wanted to do fixed indexed annuities, which the design of a fixed indexed annuity has a lot of good things to it. The best part about it is that it's a guaranteed floor of 0%, meaning the market could go bananas, down -30, 2008 style. You're not losing a dollar. Your money's staying in there. The lowest you're going to make is 0%. Right? Isn't great. You don't want to ever make 0, but you definitely don't want to lose 30% or anything. Yeah. So the fixed index annuity works as such: guaranteed floor of 0%. And every insurance company has different caps. They're going to cap you on the upside. They're going to take away your loss, but they're going to limit your gain because, again, no such thing as a free lunch. And so I've seen caps as high as 12, 13, 14, 15, 19 in some cases. And so it depends on the company, the product, the bells and whistles that the client wants. They ultimately chose American National at the time. Great company. Do business with them often. It's a very popular product down in the Carolinas. What we did for them was we put 2 of those accounts into 2 fixed index annuities with different surrender periods on them. Kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but one for a 7-year, one for a 10-year. The caps are higher in the 10. And we also did different guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefits. So one of them was a guaranteed rate of credit on their income. The other one was a guaranteed rate plus they could make a little bit more if the market did well. So we
Okay.
kind of mixed it up a little bit. It was like we started with vanilla ice cream and we put different toppings on them. That's what they ultimately wanted. Now, they were paying almost 3% inside of the variable annuities that they had. The charge for the riders here is 0.7%.
Wow.
So they got significantly higher benefits and paid 2.3% less than what they were paying over there.
Yeah, it's
And to have their
crazy.
money guaranteed protected, 100%. Absolutely
Yeah.
wild. Laura did have an annuity with an income rider on it. Wasn't the absolute best. However, it would have costed her too much money to move it.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided, you know what? We took a look at the numbers. I'm like, it's not the best thing ever, but it's going to pay you money. So let's just keep it.
Right.
Just let's make it simple. Keep it with your guy. And at least, he did work for you. We'll throw him a bone and everyone will be happy.
This is so much great information. We only have a couple minutes left, but I do want to touch on, I know looping back around on these riders we originally talked about for the life insurance, why that was so critical to add and kind of the benefits of adding them, even though you don't want to use them when you have to, they're great that they're there.
Sure. So, like I said, Laura and Bob talk to them all the time. Laura actually was so passionate about what we ended up doing for her on the front end. She ended up getting licensed and working with me because she was referring me to so many people. So I'm just splitting her on all the commission that comes through because she deserves it. And we love them dearly. My daughter calls her husband Papa Bob. Like that's just our relationship now. But Laura ended up unfortunately getting diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer recently. So we made all these changes 2 years ago. She has more life insurance, better life insurance, and her health insurance is covering a very large portion of her treatment, like a lot. But her critical illness rider on her term policy is going to cover the rest.
Wow.
So I don't know that she's going to use it, but we discovered that it could cover the rest. And the reason why I say I don't know that they're going to use it is because and here's the thing, and we can close on this if you want to. You never know when you creating a really good relationship with somebody is going to come back to serve them and serve you. Right. So obviously hearing that she got diagnosed with breast cancer was terrible. But I was like, oh, you're going to be fine because Bob's dad, when he passed away a year ago or 2 years ago, year and a half ago, he ended up leaving $1.4 million to each of his 4 children.
Wow.
In IRA money. So
wow.
His IRA was split 4 ways, $1.4 million. Now, obviously, for people that were living paycheck to paycheck before, this is like Donald Duck in the tub of cash. This is crazy. But of course, they know they have to be friends with the IRS for the next decade because the IRS is just waiting to get this money out. They have 10 years to take it out. So they quite literally have to withdraw money every year, whether they wanted to or not. And so they're actually in a position where they can pay out of pocket. So she's like, do I use this and like potentially take away from my kids? Or so she actually has a choice, which the irony is, had his dad not left that or we not done that, she would have had no choice.
Right.
So
now
it's
she's got buckets of money. Which one should I pull from now?
Right. So now Bob gets all this money. He's like, what do I do? This is bananas. I don't know what to do with this. So between me, him, Laura, and their tax advisor, we're able to set up a plan. He's going to withdraw a certain amount of money every year for 10 years. And we have things in place where he's going to drop lump sums of money everywhere. So he knows exactly what he's going to get, exactly what's going on. And they're able to like go to bed every night knowing like, good, like totally.
I mean, I just love sharing these stories as, if cancer hits, anyone, it's just like a striking moment and you don't want, your finances to be the thing that holds you back. You want to be able to get healthy, get that care that you need. And so having everything aligned, having everyone educated in this situation, opening up these conversations before shit hits the fan, it's just so important. And just knowing that they were able to, dot all their I's and cross all their T's before any of this happened makes that, so much better. And so dealing with treatment is strictly just dealing with treatment. It's not dealing with treatment and managing a job and redoing the finances and redoing the estate plan.
Like imagine having to deal with your health insurance company every day. Like I couldn't, like they got so lucky. Like I just could never imagine doing that and having to deal with like any other additional stress. So
And
yeah,
so
it's wonderful.
I think you sharing the story just shares, what great things you can help your clients with, how you can help them from, the life insurance, the debt to the investments, all these different things, and making sure they cohesively work together, which is always like the main point is you could be in all these buckets, but how do they work together for that long-term plan?
Absolutely correct.
And so, Amanda, if people want to ask you more questions, continue the conversation, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always like message me on LinkedIn. That's fine. My email is coming across here. You could email me. I can give you my phone number if you want it. I'll say it out loud. I don't know if I could type it anywhere. 631-921-0924 is my direct line. You can always just text me or call me and I'll get back to it as soon as I can. I'm always interested in having a conversation, a productive conversation with somebody from our industry who has questions or people who are not from our industry who are
Mhm.
like, something you said struck me and I need to know more about what that means.
Yep.
So by all means, LinkedIn is great. My email's here, my phone number, anything is good.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so don't be afraid to open up that conversation. Everyone has a free conversation, and so just, open it up, ask some questions, take some action. That's the most important thing. Just don't sit on the information, but take some action. Amanda's also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals, so you can reach out to her off our site, pursestrings.co. But yeah, I thank you for coming on today, sharing all this great information, and we'll talk to everyone again. Well, not next week because it's coming up on the holidays, but the week after that. So
Awesome.
hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Talk to everyone soon. Bye.